Okay. All right, guys, I've been meaning to make this video for a while. You guys see my pictures, and let me make a disclaimer here first. I mean, I'm not a pro photographer by any means. I actually have my friend here, Andrew, who is a pro photographer. So he's probably going to laugh at some of the crap that I'm going to tell you guys to do. I think I'm decent at taking a picture. I get the concept. I understand the science and math behind it. It's the artistic composition that I struggle with. But you know, some of my shots come out okay, and I'm going to show you my process and how I go through that. It's really actually pretty simple. The better the gear you have, obviously, the easier it is to get a better shot. But you still have to know the basic concepts. So I'm going to explain that stuff to you. What I have here is a Canon 5D Mark II, because I'm shooting video on the Mark III. Normally I would shoot with my Mark III. And my Canon L series 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8. F stands for the f-stop, or the aperture. The smaller the number, the bigger the hole opens up on the lens. So I'm going to shoot I'll probably shoot at f5 or f6, but having an f2.8 lens just means that its headroom is a little better. So also, since I'm using a zoom lens, I'll be able to blur the background if I want. Here I'll probably want to capture the most of the background. So I'll show you how you adjust that and explain sort of the basic concepts of it. So remember, again, I'm not a pro photographer, so if you are a pro, don't get all butthurt about me doing this stuff. I'm just going to show you how I do it, how I edit it, how I upload it, and for those of you guys who want to take a little better pictures of your car, maybe that'll help. And also keep in mind, I mean, you don't have to go out. This is about a, I don't know, $5,000 setup here, just this, and then I got the other camera. My wife's a professional photographer, so I get to depreciate these as depreciate these assets, and then she actually makes a living off of this stuff. So that's the main reason why I have all this high-end gear, and I happen to use it a little bit more than she does these days. But you don't necessarily need to go out and buy something like this. It certainly helps. If you have it, maybe I'll show you a couple of things on how to actually use it. Because once you understand the concepts, the basics, it's really not that hard. All right, guys. Again, one of the sort of simple rules of photography is don't shoot at noon in Florida. But I am restricted and I have a certain amount of time. My wife's at Disney, so I got my buddy here, so we're making do. And because I have a polarizer on the lens, and because I can make adjustments to the image, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I can get a decent shot out here. I end up shooting at noon half the time. Usually, if I go out and wash the car, and then by the time I get out here, it's noon or 1. So I got my two cars set up here, which is going to be the first time I shoot them together. And we're going to move them around and stuff. I'm just going to show you the basics here, and then I'm going to try to get some decent shots here today. But the first thing you need to do is kind of assess, how bright is it outside. So what I would do is normally try to set, and you have to take the beauty of digital SLRs, you can take 1,000 pictures if you want, it really doesn't matter. Whereas using old 35 millimeter film, you didn't want to waste them if you could help it because of the cost of developing. So I'm going to set this up so there's three main settings that I'm going to adjust on my camera. One is ISO, which adds, again, my professional photographer buddy here is going to scoff at me, but the way I think of ISO is the more I add, the higher the ISO, the more sort of digital light I'm adding to the image, if you will. Very similar to different speeds of film back in the old days. But when I think of ISO, if I'm in a dark room, I'm gonna bump my ISO up to 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,800 or something, or 1,600. I guess there is no 1,800. And the disadvantage of adding ISO is I'm going to get noise in the image. The more ISO I use, the more noise I get in the image. The other setting that I'm going to adjust, which will be important out here, because I'm going to set ISO at the lowest setting. It's a bright day. I'm set at ISO 100. So I should get the cleanest image with the least amount of noise shooting at 100. Then I'm going to adjust shutter speed. Actually, I probably would adjust aperture first, but I just kind of move them around until you figure out what works. But shutter speed would be how quick the thing snaps the shot. So since it's really bright out here, I'm probably going to shoot somewhere around 1,000. And then I have my aperture, and aperture is the size that the hole opens up. So if I'm running like an f/22, then there's a really tiny little hole. The advantage of having a tiny hole is that you get more depth of field. So everything is in focus, if you will, if I'm explaining that right. Whereas if I'm shooting, and this lens goes down to f/2.8, so then the hole is yay big. The advantage of shooting at f/2.8 is I'm allowing more light to come into the camera. If I'm in a dark room, I can capture more of what's happening. The thing you need to be aware of though with aperture is not only does it let more light in, it changes the depth of field. So if I want everything in focus, I know I'm not going to want to shoot at f/2.8, especially if I'm this far away. I'm about 25 feet away from the cars. So if I want to get this background in focus, then I'm going to have a hard time. It's not going to happen at f/2.8, especially if I zoom in at say 150 or 200 millimeters. So the first thing I would do, I got it set at 1,000 shutter speed, f/2.8, and ISO 1,000. I'm in manual mode on my camera, and I'm just going to take a few test shots to see what's doing here. And that actually looks pretty good. It's a little dark. I also have on this lens is called a circular polarizer. This is a really cool thing to have for cars, especially if you have a lot of glare on the windshield or glare on the front of the car. White cars, it's not usually as necessary, but my blue car or a red car or a car that has a lot of reflection, the circular polarizer can help. And all I do is I adjust this, and this does move you down to say a stop or so. So it does make the image a little darker, so you may have to make some adjustments to get it to work. So normally I just sort of line up the picture, line up the camera, watch the windshield as I twist the circular polarizer, and just when it turns sort of black or darker, when the glare goes away, that's what I'll set it at. This here is just a hood to help with reflections. Main reason for this is just to protect the lens. And so, I'm getting, and what I'll do with this, and you could be shooting on a tripod. I actually have a tripod mount, and what I could do if I was really good is I would take a bunch of different exposures. So that way I'd get one where the sky was blown out, but the car was really bright, or the ground was really bright, and then I'd get one where the car was dialed in, and then I'd get one where the sky was dialed in, and then what I would do where the car would be really dark, the ground would be really dark. So then what I'd go do and layer those together in Photoshop. I have a basic idea of how to do that. I don't think it's very hard, but I just don't do it. I get my images are good enough for what I'm trying to accomplish. So what I would simply do is set up and just take pictures from multiple angles. The beauty again of digital SLR is I could take as many photos as I want. I would also adjust this and say, okay, I want to get the background in focus. So I brought my shutter speed down to 400, bring my f-stop up to 6.3, test that out, see how that works. It's still a little dark, so I'll bring my shutter speed down to 200, and I'll zoom out so I can get that no trespassing sign in focus, get both cars in focus. It looks good. So the idea here is that I adjust, and I'm always going to want to shoot in manual rather than green square, especially in an environment like this where I'm trying to capture something specific. So I'm going to adjust my shutter speed, adjust my f-stop or my aperture, and adjust my ISO. So in this case, the only two numbers I need to adjust because it's so bright, ISO is staying at a flat 100. The only two numbers I need to adjust are my shutter speed and my f-stop. So if I wanted this all to be extremely in focus, I'd probably go up to 8, bring my shutter speed down. I really don't want to go any lower than say 80, maybe 60, because if my shutter speed is slower and I'm shooting in my hands, you'll start to get some camera shake, get some noise. So I'll usually try to shoot at say shutter speeds of 100, and then I'll adjust my f-stop accordingly. and kind of zoom in. It looks pretty good. Maybe a little bright. Come up to f10. Most of the time I'm going to shoot, you know, somewhere around what do you shoot there? F5, F6, something like that. It just depends. Or, yeah, you could, yeah, you could develop your own style. My style tends to be just get the whole thing in focus. So I'll usually shoot a lot of times at like 6 or 7. Pros will usually shoot at 2.8 or wide open, and try to get that bokeh effect or the depth of field change. So I think that's pretty much the basics of what you need to know to take a picture. All you need to do is you need to set the camera up. If I'm in my garage, I'm usually shooting with an ISO of 500 or 600, so I am adding some noise, but at least I'm getting the image without using a flash. I'd shoot wide open at ISO 500, 600, and these cameras do so great with noise, even at ISO 2500 or higher, sometimes 25, 32,000, you can still shoot. You're gonna see some grain in that picture, but sometimes that's what you want. So, so that's sort of the basic concept. You know, I'm running my stabilizer on, I'm running autofocus. All I do is line the thing up, push the button halfway down, push it the rest of the way down, and I get a nice in-focus image. If it doesn't come out, I can just delete it or just change my settings and take more. And then I'll just move around, you know, and take from different angles to get both cars in focus. And it's real simple in that I'm just continuing to adjust, looking at the image. Is it blown out? Is it in focus? Does it look good? Does it look bad? You know, taken from different angles. And that's basically it, guys. I mean, pretty simple, pretty basic. What I'll do next is we're gonna do a full shoot of the cars, move them around. I'm not gonna video that. And then what we'll do, I'll show you on a follow-up video how to edit this stuff, how I edit it in Lightroom. I don't even feel the need to use Photoshop. I'll just use Lightroom. So thanks for watching, and hit me up if you have any questions.